Edgar Beas. I work for the Division of Graduate Education and Postdoctoral Affairs. I do a lot of work with students in education on what graduate school is and what graduate studies mean. So today I'm going to go over information about what's beyond, after you finish, after you graduate with your undergraduate, with your bachelor's degree. If any of you are interested in going into doing a master's or a PhD, this presentation will help you kind of see what's out there and what options you have and what a graduate school application will look like. So I like to begin by saying that if you have any questions as I am going through the presentation, please put it in the chat, raise your hand. I'm really interactive and I like to make sure that you can ask questions as we go. At the end, I'll also stick around for questions or just comments or thoughts that you can share about grad school. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Edgar Beas. I work for the Division of Graduate Education and Postdoctoral Affairs. And I wanted to start with this presentation with just two main basic concepts. And those two main concepts are graduate school and research. So what is graduate school, right? Let's just start from the very, very basic concept of graduate school. And it is essentially just graduate education that encompasses research, study, and teaching beyond the bachelor's degree, right? So as you see in this graphic, right, you see the not degrees types, right? Certificates and diplomas are considered not degrees. Undergraduate degrees are considered an associate's that you would get at a community college and a bachelor's degree that you would get at a four-year college. And then graduate and professional degrees are considered your master's and professional degrees, practical doctorates, research doctorates. Those are all graduate degrees that you can get at a doctoral or master granting institution such as UC San Diego. The basic concept of research. I know that you in this audience might be students who have some experience with doing research and either through trails or other programs at the undergraduate research hub. But research is essentially detailed study of a specific problem or topic, concern or issue, is discovering new ideas and information and building upon existing knowledge, right? So that is the core, at its core, what research means and what research is. But we'll talk more about undergraduate research in a future slide. So just to draw your attention to what the differences between undergraduate versus graduate, the first thing that I like to point out is that when you are a graduate student, you attend way more seminar type courses, right? Especially as you're advancing, right, in the level of your degree. You're going to have more seminar type courses, meaning that you're going to have more discussion sessions, more classes where you're going to require to speak more and to be able to contribute more to the class. You're going to have more papers, more projects, more presentations, and less tests, right? So that is one other difference between being a graduate student to being an undergraduate course, right? In a graduate level course, you're also going to be exposed to more research-oriented projects, right? It's the nature of graduate school. You're going to have more research to do. You're going to have an increased specialization. You're going to narrow down a subject matter that you want to study. And you're going to have much more independent work, right? You're going to need a lot of self-discipline and a lot of um, skills in organizing yourself to make sure that you can drive that independent work and perform well. Also, there's going to be less short-term feedback about how you're doing academically. You're going to have a lot of that independence will come with you making sure that you're keeping yourself accountable for projects, for deadlines, and all those things. And there's definitely higher competition at the graduate level versus the undergraduate as you're narrowing down your subject. From there, I like to also talk about the biggest difference. And this is a graphic that I borrowed from Duke University's grad school page and adapted from Matt Might, the illustrated guide to a PhD. I like to really show this graphic and expose it and share it with as many people as I can because it really um, visualizes and allow students to understand what the biggest difference and the differences between an undergraduate versus a graduate degree, right? So let me start this short video by explaining. So if you look at this line right here and if you see this as the boundary of what's known to humans, right? In any given topic, in any given discipline, in any given area, right? This is the boundary as you're making progress as we all are making progress when we're in school, right? In K through 12 you gain a little bit of knowledge in a lot of different areas, right? So you're building those blocks, right? In all different areas as you see it spread out, right? You have all these blocks of all these different colors that signify the disciplines that and the areas, right? Your history, your English, your language, everything is developing, right? As you're specializing in your undergrad, when you finish high school, you go into a college, right? Either a community college or a four-year college, and you're learning and starting to specialize more and more. So these blocks become more and more narrow. Now we're getting into grad school here, right? When you're in a master's program, you acquire certain specialization, right? So if your major right now, just for example, is I don't know, electrical engineering, right? When you go in to do a master's degree, you're getting an electrical engineering degree with a certain specialization, right? So you're becoming more and more narrow, right? So the you're getting closer to that boundary of human knowledge and also getting more specialized. And ultimately, this is the what I want to make sure that you understand. So when you're in a PhD, you're essentially studying existing research that takes you to that limit, right? So any literature that you read, anything that you are doing when you're in a PhD program, when you're doing that research, you're studying those limits of what's known, right? The things that are known and that are not known, right? When you finish that PhD program, you're essentially making a little dent, right? You're at that edge, you focus, you push to the boundary, and then you make a little dent to contribute new knowledge. That is the biggest difference. You're contributing new knowledge when you study a PhD, you're getting closer to that. And then basically you're contributing the new knowledge and the that knowledge that is going to be written in books for generations to come, right? So that is the biggest difference between being an undergrad and a graduate degree. Great. Hopefully it was helpful for you to see it visualized in this graphic that was borrowed from Duke University. That's why I love it so much. Okay, cool. I hope I didn't skip any slides. There we go. So when we talk about pathways into graduate school, just another visual here, when you're in your bachelor's degree, as you are all are in this audience, there's many ways that you can get to grad school if you wish. You could either go work after you graduate, right? Go onto your career. You can go straight into graduate school, which is this middle path, right? Or you can go gain experience and get go and take a couple of gap years and then come back and apply to graduate school a couple of years after or a few years after and get into that graduate program. So there's really no perfect or ideal pathway to get into graduate school. We just recommend that you think about it and that you analyze what you want to do. Sometimes it just happens that you're in this pathway and you end up applying to graduate school after an experience or an employer or something that made you or encouraged you to apply. I like to go over now the different types of graduate degrees. First one being the master's degree that I is typically 1 to 2 years in length, right? When you go into a part-time master's degree, might be 2 3 years. Most of the master's degrees coursework based. They might or might not ask you to write a thesis. Sometimes the final requirement to complete the master's degree is either a comprehensive exam or a project. And then from there, you have your professional degrees. As you can see from the acronyms, master's degrees will typically be your Master's of Science, Master's of Arts, which are the two most common. And then you have your professional degrees, which are a different type of master's degrees, are also the same time, right? 1 to 2 years, but these are going to be re, oftentimes are going to be a requirement for employment in these different fields, right? So two of the acronyms that you see right here, Masters of Fine Arts and Masters of Business Administration, are two specialized professional degrees that are very similar to a master's degrees, but they differ in one particular aspect that I'm going to list right here. So being 1 to 2 years in length, if it's full-time coursework based, but this is the difference here. They'll have an internship or fieldwork component rather than having like a thesis that you need to write. And then at the doctoral level, you'll have your PhDs, your MDs, your EDDs, your JDs. These are all doctoral level degrees that will be typically completed between 5 to 7 years. Full-time commitment, typically, you'll complete courses in the first couple of years and you do research. And the final requirement for these is going to be a doctoral dissertation and an oral defense. Again, depending on the field, a terminal degree might be either a master's or a doctoral degree. Okay, it's really, really going to depend. A terminal degree meaning that that's going to be the last degree that you could do in your in any given discipline or area. Just checking here for questions. Let me know if you have any questions through the chat or by raising your hand. So why should you consider graduate school? And hopefully those that are here and those who are listening, through the recording, um, have maybe asked yourself this question about considering graduate school or not, and why. So these are good reasons to consider and pursuing graduate school. The first one being that you have a career goal that makes graduate school a necessity or a need, right? Based or a requirement based on that career goal, right? An example of that could be I want to be a lawyer. And in order to be a lawyer, you need to have a JD degree, right? So that's a career goal, and that's why grad school will be a requirement then. You want to learn and discover more in a specialty area. So if you wanted to, as I said, as I mentioned in the graphic before, if you wanted to specialize and say, I want to, I want to know more about this particular topic um, in environmental sciences, right? So that would be a reason why you want to pursue grad school, because that's going to allow you to get there, right? Get to that specialization. And then you could get obviously a better job in your field with a graduate degree. That would be another reason why you would like to pursue graduate school if it's going to give you a raise, if it's going to give you a better job in your particular field. Here, I like to share some statistics and data, just basic, and it's somewhat, I don't want to say outdated, but it's data that is there that was, pulled a couple of years ago, and it's based on um, this is all to make sure that you can understand why grad school might be important for you. This is just educational attainment, and I like to draw your attention to just the trend of seeing how particularly the orange and the blue portions of these bar graphs are increasing year by year, meaning that as the years go by, there's more people going and doing master's degrees and attaining more master's degrees. There's more people also attaining more doctoral degrees, right? So I wanted to draw your attention to those two particular fields, those two particular portions of this, which says a lot, right? About how there's more jobs that are requiring you to do or to have a graduate degree, and there's more people wanting to pursue graduate school year to year. Also, I like to uh, make you or show you the median earnings, right? By educational attainment, just generally, this is data again from a few years back, but this is generally the rule of thumb, right? As you have a higher degree, there'll be a higher compensation, higher earnings for an individual. And this is just one example. There's no particular field or area attached to this, but just to generally make you understand that with more education, more compensation, more earnings are typically related, are correlated. All right. Questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, raise your hand. Let's move on now to another section of this presentation, and that is how to prepare yourself while you're here as a student at UC San Diego. So the first thing that I like to show you here is a graphic showing you if you're a freshman or a sophomore, what are the things that you can start doing, right? As a freshman, good grades are important, right? As you're starting here, visiting the Career Center, joining several student organizations so you can explore interests and make sure that you can build relationships, really grow your network, right? Make sure that you can demonstrate leadership, right, in that first year, couple of years in undergrad. As a sophomore, also, you want to make sure that you can foster good relationships, continue to grow your network, especially with faculty, right? If you're interested in going into grad school, these are all things that you can do, right? So conducting undergraduate research, and it says right there, visit the undergraduate research hub. So plug for you guys, for Daniel, for the team at Trails, and the team at URH to make sure that students can learn more about what these opportunities could give them, and they can apply for these opportunities. As a sophomore, also, we want to recommend that you pursue additional coursework in classes or topics that are particularly interesting to you, and that you can reach out to professors in that area to see if you could join any type of research or projects that they're doing outside class. Now we move on to juniors and seniors. So as you are a junior and you're thinking of going to grad school, you definitely want to continue to maintain good grades, continue to maintain a good GPA, right? GPA is one of the requirements for application for a graduate program. So we want to make sure that you take good care of that GPA. You want to seek co-curricular opportunities also, meaning leadership opportunities, any really opportunities that are outside your classes that could give you experience in other types of skills that you can really build as you are in college. You want to really get to know faculty, attend office hours, make sure that they get to know you and you get to know them very well. So make sure that, these could be faculty in the future that would be potential recommenders or writers of a letter of recommendation for you. So you want to make sure that you have relationships with these people. And also you consider applying to undergraduate research programs and consider doing undergraduate research. As a senior, everything that has been already mentioned is important, right? In addition to that, if you're considering going straight into grad school from undergrad, applications open in the fall of your senior year, so you want to make sure that you have a plan for that and that you know what's required of you to submit an application. All right. So typically what's needed to qualify for graduate school, just generally, right? It really depends on the field and area of interest. That's why this is in caps, right? It really depends. And I would invite you to look up what is required of you if you wanted to pursue graduate school in biology, in sociology, in certain areas, right? So look that up. Hopefully, you can find good information about what's typically required. But generally, research experience is required if you're applying to a doctoral program, right? So any research experience that you can get at the undergraduate level is going to be really useful for your application. Leadership experience or involvement in student organizations is recommended and encouraged that people have as they're applying to graduate school. And definitely a GPA of 3.0 and above will be required for most graduate programs. Some will even go to like a 3.25 GPA requirement. So make sure that you continue to have good grades and continue to take care of your GPA. So another piece that I like to talk about is applying to graduate programs. No, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. Applying to programs that prepare you for graduate school. So these are often called enrichment programs. And I think there's programs under URH that have a little bit of this component attached to it. A lot of these programs like the McNairs, a lot of other programs that really give you information such as this one, and Charles is one of them. Having a seminar on graduate school is essentially something that is giving you the knowledge for this. So continue to seek those opportunities throughout your career here. At UC San Diego when you are a student, continue to seek these opportunities. Sometimes these are grant or university funded. They might be opportunities and programs that have a research component. They might really be useful for professional development, giving you skills such as communication, such as other types of skills that you can really transfer to any type of environment or program, and really give you a support network, right? Outside of your class, outside of your friends, right? Faculty, staff, peers who understand your background, right? And really the other piece is the financial support. Sometimes they come with money, so it's really helpful to have that piece as you're going through your undergrad years here. The other recommendation for applying to graduate school or thinking of applying to graduate school is conducting undergraduate research, right? It's crucial for going into doctoral programs, as I said. Benefits are understanding the research process, understanding how scientists work on problems, learning lab techniques, and developing skills in the interpretation of results. So these are all specific benefits of conducting research, and specifically undergraduate research, and how they could be beneficial for you as you're starting to look into graduate programs. Okay. All right. I like to just finish with what to really consider, or what to really uh, look into when you are applying, right? What are those components of an application when you are thinking of applying to a master's, a professional, or a doctoral degree? So number one is an online application form that you typically would create an account for, that you would typically go into, sign in, sign out, right? Complete little by little, and submit at the end before the deadline. Then you have transcripts, you have your resume and CV. A CV is a type of a different type of document than a resume that will list more specific items, and that would be more useful for certain and for certain settings than others. So we like to yeah, we can talk about that later. But the letters of recommendation is a really important one. Statement of purpose is another important one, and the GRE or other tests that are required for you for entry. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I think I have in the slides two main components of the graduate school application, which are the letters of recommendation and statement of purpose. But I can come back to this and talk more in depth about transcripts, resume, and GRE if you have any questions. Let's talk about the statement of purpose specifically. This is such an important piece of your application because it really describes your career goals and how your experiences, your education will prepare you for that career goal that you want to have, right? So you really want to drive that message through in the statement of purpose. You want to write about you, your skills, your potential, your interest in graduate studies. You want to make sure that it's customized for research happening at the department of the institution that you're applying to, right? So this is going to be really customized to the school and to the program that you're applying, right? So at the time that you're applying, you really got to know more about what school and what program you're applying, right? In order to write the statement of purpose and make it be impactful and meaningful. And you really want to tie it to your interest directly to potential mentors and their research at the department level. So that's really important to have in the statement of purpose because it really drives the message that you're informed about what kind of research and what kind of faculty are at the department level at that school, and how your personal interest in that field or that topic could be a good match to that school and to that professor. Okay. And one last piece that I like to talk about today is the letters of recommendation. So you want to definitely, for doctoral studies, you want to have letters preferably only from faculty. Master's programs typically, it could be a little more flexible. You can have you can have letters of recommendation from other people. But typically letters from professors are very impactful in both master's and doctoral applications. Letters must be from individuals who can speak to your research and or academic performance. You definitely want to ask faculty before you submit their name and contact. Typically, students will, in their application, um, will write in the name and email of the person that is giving them the letter of recommendation. So you want to make sure that you ask them before you put in their name so they don't get an email saying like, oh, so-and-so has requested a letter of recommendation and they're not expecting that. That doesn't look really, really good. So you want to make sure that you warn them um, before you put their name in the application. And then lastly, you need a strong letter of recommendation. Really strong letter of recommendation really goes a long way. So if you notice any hesitation on the part of the faculty or the professor or the person that is recommending you, be cautious with that, right? You want to make sure that they're excited, that they're supportive, right? Supportive would be the word and the adjective that I put here to make sure that they're supportive of you going to grad school and that supportive of you of them writing this letter for you. Okay. And then these are some considerations when asking for a letter of recommendation. Before you ask them, you want to learn as much as possible about your recommender. You ideally would be going to their office hours and meeting with them often. You want to read their publications. You want to ask them to be your mentor if you can. So you want to build that rapport and that relationship before you even ask them for a letter of recommendation. And when you ask them, you want to give them at least 3 weeks of advance notice. You want to provide them your statement of purpose or some type of background information so they could go ahead and talk more in detail about you and be able to describe you in a lot more detail when they're writing that letter for you. And you want to follow up, right? You want to follow up, remind them of the deadline, remind them of, uh, that they have that they agree to write a letter for you, and they're expecting this. Just know that faculty and professors are used to students asking them for letters of recommendation, so they're pretty knowledgeable and savvy on how to manage these things. So don't be afraid to ask them for a letter or to be your mentor, right? So they can potentially support you when you're trying to apply to graduate school. And with that, I think that's the information I have. I wanted to make sure that I had time to answer any questions from our audience members. And as I said, this presentation kind of goes over or went over the basic concept of graduate school, the reasons why you should pursue graduate school, and also um, some of the components of a graduate school application. So if you're thinking of applying, you can have some um, awareness of what it would require you to do. So thank you, everyone. I will stick around for any questions. And thank you, Daniel and David and Sophia and the whole team at URH for having us doing this presentation for your audience and other audiences outside.